Our last speaker today is someone that I'm sure many of you know and recognize, Mike Colwell. Mike Colwell is the Executive Director of Entrepreneurial Initiatives at the Partnership. Mike Colwell leads Square One DSM and Plains Angels, a group of Iowa-based Midwest angel investors. Mike spends his days coaching, mentoring, consulting, and asking tough questions to help entrepreneurs reach their full potential. Please join me in welcoming Mike Colwell to the stage.
Thank you, Kaylee. Before I start my presentation, first of all, I gave myself the worst speaking slot. I am following Ben Milne, which is not easy to do, and I'm between all of you and the beer. So I'm going to make this brief. Before I do, Kaylee, thank you. You did a wonderful job as our MC today, and I'd like to have everybody give her a hand. We had a lot of great speakers today, and I appreciate every one of them. There were no paid speakers today. This isn't one of those events where you pay $1,000 to get in. It's something we do for passion, and everybody who presented today was, to be honest, more than willing to present. So thank you. Finally, a thank you to Tej Dewan. Tej has been working with me since 2010. We met in a client's office, and I consider him the greatest partner I've ever worked with. So Tej, thank you. So onward. So there's a tsunami coming at all of you, and it's called artificial intelligence, and it's going to hit you harder than you think. It's going to hit you from a direction you don't expect, and you shouldn't take my word for it. You guys know this guy, Mark Cuban. Here's what he said. I quote, "Artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, whatever you're doing, if you don't understand it, learn it, because otherwise you're going to be a dinosaur within 3 years." You know this guy? He's Sundar Pichai, I just butchered his name, CEO of Google. And he said late last year, "The last 10 years have been about building a world that is mobile first. In the next 10 years, we will shift to a world that is AI first." Here's an interesting guy. This is John McCarthy. In 1956, 5 years before I was born, and I am 56 years old, he said, "There's something called artificial intelligence. It's the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs." Later, in 59, Arthur Samuel wrote, "Machine learning is the field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed." Now, this is all well and good, but something new happened. This happened pretty recently. The breakthrough was called deep learning. And it was a breakthrough because they, to paraphrase it, they quit trying to model the world and they switched to modeling the brain. This is what's causing the tsunami, deep learning. You know, if you think about it, it seems obvious. Everything seems obvious to me after somebody explains it. You ever notice that? Everything's obvious after somebody explains it. But our reality is our own. It's the way we see it. A lot of animals don't see the world the way we see it. But as humans, we see it in a certain way. So let's talk about AI. It's been around since the 50s. It's gone through some high highs, and some of the lowest lows the tech industry ever saw were in the 80s and 90s, which were the deep winters of AI. And now it's back. So here we are, 60 years later. The tsunami is just starting to break after these false starts. And you have to think about this for a minute. This is not the first slow-moving explosion. Here's one called the internet. Packet data theory started in the 50s. The first papers were written back then. The web showed up in the early 80s. I saw Google at a trade show booth in the back of Comdex. They were at a 2 foot by 4 foot table with a white curtain around it. You know those dumpy tables you get if you're the worst booth in the place? That's where they were, at the very back. At the front was Yahoo. Their booth cost $1 million easy. and Google was handing out beach towels. I have one of those beach towels. A young lady gave it to me, and I don't think she had a clue what a search engine was. And I walked away thinking, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Wow, was I wrong. Something called wireless data that I was personally involved with starting in 1984 was actually in the wireless that you all know, spread spectrum technologies that make us all capable of doing something called Wi-Fi and data cellular, was invented by a lady named Hedy Lamarr during World War II. And for you history buffs or trivia buffs, she was an actress. That led to Wi-Fi, what's powering all your connections today. It was a long, long road. Batteries. In 1980, John Goodenough invented the first lithium-ion battery, 1980. The first production of a battery of lithium-ion was 91, okay? First consumer device with a lithium-ion battery was 94. Sony did it. And by the way, in the first year, a gentleman in Tokyo opened his cell phone and immediately burnt his face on that battery. Turns out it was a bit dangerous. The company I was involved with put the first lithium-ion in an industrial computer in 1995. There was this processor, this thing called a processor that came out in 1971 called the 4004. Tage, I'm geeking out on you. 71, the first PC with the 8086 came out in 82. It takes a while. This stuff takes time. Deep learning is changing our world. We're entering a fourth industrial revolution. The first, going from hand production to machines. The average income for those people went up dramatically. And the other thing that happened in the first industrial revolution, population went up dramatically. People could survive. The second one, the assembly line. Henry Ford, he paid his people $5 a day when the normal wage was $1, and the average person could buy a car. The third, something called digital manufacturing. Recently, GE had a Design Quest challenge, and they didn't even design their own part. They said, hey, here's a part we have today, make it better. And some young man made it better to the point of 80% lighter, and they printed. GE is on their way to printing a lot of the parts that make up their world. So here we come to this fourth industrial revolution called AI and deep learning. So what does it do? Let's start with reasoning. The ability to solve problems through logical deduction. One of the places it's being used right now is a company called Luminance is using it to improve document search and findings for the legal world. There's something called knowledge. Deep learning is really good at knowledge. And let me give an example. You think knowledge is knowledge, but let's talk about a key. Is it the key to the kingdom? The key to my heart? Hi, Beth. Keyless? Keyed up? Somebody keyed my car? Or did I key the mic? That's knowledge. IBM has spent in the last couple of years $4 billion to give their Watson algorithms knowledge in the medical industry. AI, deep learning, is really good at planning. The ability to set and achieve goals. Logistics is one of those places. Logistics is an amazing place. Amazon's next big push is in the field of AI as it relates to logistics. And here's something, and this is actually from 2015. 44% of Amazon's customers in 2015 live within 20 miles of an Amazon warehouse or fulfillment facility. Think about that. It's really good at communications, understanding a written and spoken language. Apple Siri, Google Now, Amazon Alexa, which is a huge hit, all use the technology today. Google's announced that it is implementing neural network AIs into Google Translate with radically improved results. They're seeing a substantial improvement year on year. Perception, finally. Perception, the ability to deduce. Here's a thought. The last annual quarterly conference call for Tesla, they announced they're going to start offering insurance as part of the purchase of a car. And a lot of my friends in the insurance, and I've got a lot of friends in insurance now that we did this accelerator, started laughing about it until they said this. Since they implemented the semi-autonomous software inside of Tesla cars, the accident rate for Tesla cars has gone down 40%. That's AI. This revolution has begun. This isn't something that's waiting out there. It's started. It's here now. Alexa, Nest, Tesla. The Amazon product with the Apple logo is a reference to the fact that Apple is expected to launch their competitor for voice command in the home sometime this year. All right, so what's in it for you, startups? How about a 7-time increase in AI company funding in the last 5 years? And in case you think it's super early, let's talk about 226 AI startups in the UK alone right now. In fact, this slide's about 6 months old. Or how about 263 startups in the future transportation stack? Again, a 6-month-old slide. So Steve Jobs, anybody in here have the pleasure of getting to actually see Steve Jobs speak? I got to see him about 4 times, and he's really, truly an amazing guy. And this is one of my favorite quotes. And you heard Ben Milne say it in a different way. Deciding what you don't do is important as what you do. You only have so much time. So what don't you do? All right. Let's not be afraid. Now, there's a lot of reason to be afraid. In fact, one of our business leaders in town, Connie Weimer, who is one of the people I respect the most in this community, said, get comfortable with being afraid. So let's get comfortable with this. Here's a couple scary headlines. The dark secret at the heart of AI. That was a headline from MIT's Technology Review, and they are not exactly clickbait. How about the America's rich get richer and the poor get replaced by robots? Bloomberg. Alibaba's CEO, Jack Ma, says AIs could steal CEOs' jobs. I kind of like that one, actually. The CEO that I had last time, wouldn't mind if a computer replaced him. John McAfee, I'm not sure how credible John is. There's days he is and days he isn't. But what if artificial intelligence hacks itself? Elon Musk gave his advice to Vanity Fair for how to survive a robot takeover. Okay, my point is there's going to be a lot of PR out there about how scary this future is. There is real thought that programming jobs will decrease dramatically in the next 20 years. Okay, a lot of us are programmers. I'm a programmer by training. That's one of those jobs everybody's telling their kids to go get a job as a programmer. Beth and I have a 19-year-old son. We're like, you want to be a programmer? And he took a programming class, and that didn't work out very well. That's not his future. I've decided he's actually a genius. He's going to get a classical studies degree. All right, let's not bury our heads in the sand. If you want a good example of what happens when you do, Bill Gates in the 90s decided to ignore the internet. He kind of took a defensive position. He saw the internet as something that could disrupt Office and Windows. Here are some companies that started while he ignored the internet. Google, Yahoo, eBay, Amazon, Lycos, Netscape, AOL, Skype, Java. So much for ignoring. Here's something else we shouldn't do. Don't build an AI chip. We're not a chip manufacturing hub. We're not good at this. Google, this is Google's chip. It's called a TPU, a tensor processing unit. I had to look up what a tensor was. It's been a while since I had that level of math. Intel, IBM, Qualcomm, and NVIDIA are already the leaders in the world at AI-specific chipsets. Don't build another TensorFlow, or Torch, or Theano, or Caffe, or Neon, or the IBM machine learning stack, and many, many more to come. These are software libraries, some open source, some closed, for machine learning. They are amazing, and they're out there today. Don't build another one of those. That's not what we should do. Those races have been won. The chipset race, the algorithm race, the way you do things, the tools you use, that race is over. Now, think about it a minute. If you're going to go start a startup right now, would you really build another radio network topology? Would you build another internet? No, you'd build on top of it. You'd figure out how to leverage it. The list of winners has been set. So, Charlie Brown, what can I do? Well, you can start by learning. I've been spending about an hour a day learning about AI, and it is truly an amazing place. And one of the things, the first thing I learned is I'm not worried about how the math works. I got to be honest with you. I've got a pretty good math background, and I was lost in about 10 minutes. So start learning today. Don't focus on the core of the math. I doubt very many of you in this room could diagram the internet for me and take me down at the packet level and explain exactly how an IP packet works in V4 or V6. You don't need to. There's tools to do that. But what you can do is go to aistart.org. It is a site that actually Curdy Levy and I put up to start people on this journey. There's everything from a primer to a visualization to one of the better books on how to write code to places you can find newsletters talking about what's going on in AI, and start learning, because this is going to be your world. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of CEOs right now that are way ahead of you on this, and they have no technical background. Engage your employees to learn. There's a couple things I'm going to say today that I don't want you to forget, and this is one of them. You cannot hire AI talent. Facebook can't hire enough. In fact, at Facebook, the senior AI people are teaching classes in AI for the employees. There was an article in Wired recently about how the employees at Facebook get into foot races to sign up for the class because they know if they don't get in, they'll lose their jobs over time. They'll become irrelevant inside Facebook. So if you think you're going to go out and start a company that's going to implement AI, and the first thing you're going to do is going to go hire 10 really talented AI people, you're wrong. You don't have any choice. You've got to learn it, and then you have to teach it. Think about this for a minute. The people that developed the internet did not anticipate many of its uses. They didn't make very much money. They should have, maybe, in an altruistic world, but they didn't. Google didn't invent AI, but it's benefiting from the implementation in the world of search, and Google is making a lot of money. They're an implementer. So back to the most tired phrase in the startup world, solve a problem for a specific market. This is what Des Moines should be doing. This is what Central Iowa should be doing. And that's my call to action to you is, and the point of this whole talk is, what do we do here in Central Iowa? We're not the Valley, all right? We're not in Reading, England, some of the greatest technical spaces in the UK. We're not in Boston. We're here. You know what? We're really good at implementing, and we have a couple of very strong industries here. One of them is called insurance finance, and the other is called agriculture. These are places we can lead, along with many other industries in this area. Our knowledge of our market can allow us to implement AI in ways that make sense and make a lot of money. Here's the other thing I don't want you to forget. Remember me telling you that tsunami is going to hit you from a place you didn't expect? Within a year, you're going to go into a deal, if you're in the B2B space, and find out your competitor just told them that they've got AI in their product. I guarantee you, I did it to my competitors. Whatever the newest cool stuff was, I'd go in and tell my customer I had it. Okay? It may be the dumbest possible thing to put AI in that product. But the minute they say it, they change the selling game. If you're not literate enough to explain your position to somebody across the table who may know a lot about AI, you're going to get killed. So you may walk out of here and you may learn a ton and go, you know what, AI is not for me. It doesn't fit. Brad may decide it doesn't fit inside hatchlings or puzzlings. Now, he isn't in the B2B space, but even then, somebody may say they've got it, and that makes the gaming experience better. And he's going to have to defend against it. Volunteer Local has a ton of data. I know a little bit about that company. Somebody's going to put AI in it. It's not that hard. I know one guy who put it against his data in an afternoon and had results coming out. It's not that hard. Somebody's going to do it. Your customer's going to ask you. You need to respond intelligently, no matter what the answer is going to be. So here's my point. Des Moines can be a center of excellence for AI implementation. We know more about implementing in some of our industries than anybody in the world. We work pretty hard here. We're pretty talented. We've got a lot of great resources. So while we can't be the center of excellence for AIs, chips, or tool sets, we can be for insurance, agriculture, volunteer management, marketing funnel management, referral marketing, and many, many more. We're just as good at these and many more things than the rest of the world, and probably better. I want to leave you with this thought, because the beer's waiting and I'm in your way. Much what you're going to see at first will likely disturb you or cause you to fear the future. Stick with it. Remember, there was a time when people thought that sailing too far would cause you to sail off the edge of the world. Those bold people who kept going went all the way around, and many of them reaped huge rewards. The ones left standing on the dock had to play catch-up. So with that, I'm not going to take questions on stage because you want to get to the beer. So I'm going to ask Kaylee to come up and close us out. I assume she's still here. And I'll be happy to stand out there and drink a beer with you and answer all the questions you want. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike.